Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the live stream on June 30th. For some of us, those that are from the finance or accounting background, this is the biggest day of the year. This is New Year's Eve for accountants. So happy end of financial year to those from the accounting financial services background like I used to be. Back in the day, it used to be a very big party on June 30th at various pubs around town. Anyway, today I just thought I would talk briefly and very briefly today about one of the hidden gems or the hidden resources for sports club volunteers, and that is the Play by the Rules website. And I'll just bring it up a little bit. Often when I define what sports community do, it's easier for me to define what we don't do. And we often say that peak bodies do the development and support of athletes, coaches, and officials, and Play by the Rules do all the behavioral aspects and the fairness and kindness aspects, and we'll cover that off in a moment. And we kind of do all the rest for the club volunteers, whether it's being on the committee, the roles, the responsibilities, the tasks, the fundraising, the event management, the social media, the communication, the building participation, anything that's not coach, athlete, player development, and the Play by the Rules. Kindness, be kind to the world, messaging, that is what we do. So I thought we'd take a little bit of a guided tour around the Play by the Rules website. So just so that we can understand the magnitude of the resources that are available for clubs and the scope of the information that they provide for not just clubs, but for everybody in clubland and those that are supporting clubs. So often, and let me just make this screen a little bit bigger. How's that looking? That's better. So they cover off those issue areas. So child safety, they've got a COVID-19 support centre like we do, governance, inclusion and diversity, sideline behaviour. So they're very much about behaviour and equality, fairness. They're actually a collaboration of all the different sport and rec officers around the country. And I will find that I've just gone blank on the other 4 or 5 groups that all collaborate to create these great resources. So they pick up integrity in sport, social media. And from a social media perspective, one of the lots of the questions that we have, what are the issues, tips for clubs, tips for coaches, tips for players, great examples. But what they do have all the time is they have templates, policies, and procedures. So for social media policies and procedures, codes of conduct, sideline behavior, those sorts of things, they've got lots of templates and checklists that you can use. So got that issue. So they do a lot of that training in those behavioral areas. So child protection, really, really important as we come into the post-Royal Commission era, where we're now much more aware of the risks that our traditional behaviour in sporting clubs, which is just being to trust people, trust them with our children, trust them with our money. We now understand that those traditional behaviours, while 99% of the time are fine and that's how we operate, do create an environment for predators and to which they were taking advantage. So now Play by the Rules has a lot of child protection information, a lot of information on harassment, discrimination, inclusivity, vilification, so that we can understand how to ensure that never happens in our clubs, so our clubs are welcoming and inclusive. Very strong area on complaint and member protection. And over the coming weeks, hopefully starting Thursday, but we'll see how it goes. But over the coming weeks, we're going to start to focus on this area of member protection, complaint handling, and the different ways that we can be dealing with complaints and processes. Complaints and more major issues. We'll start to do that on a weekly basis through these live streams. So really, I'm really excited about that because that's an area that is a real challenge for clubs and volunteers. So it's really good to be kind of working our way into that area, not to replicate what Play by the Rules do, but to harness the resources and just put them in an application that our club volunteers will understand. Lots of mini courses there, and let's just click on there so you can have a look. How to prevent the spread of COVID-19, Parents' Guide to Clean Sport, Let Kids Be Kids, which I think is a really important area of ensuring that kids enjoy sport for what it is to them, which is fun. Mates playing with mates, and not necessarily all about competition, segregating by skills, but mates playing with mates and having a great time. Integrity, ethics and decision making. And I found it interesting on the front page of the paper on the weekend, where the head of the SAS in the Army was talking about scenarios where they might have had a falling down of moral and ethical leadership. So really important part of leading our sports club is that morals and ethics. And so Play by the Rules really give us the resources and the tools to explore that, putting it into action. Just going across their headings again, sorry, a little bit, is their resources, and this is huge. Fortnightly, might be monthly magazine that comes out. Lots of case studies, lots of infographics, lots of resources that we can be using in our clubs to help us. Lots of videos that we can be using. We can be showing people around all the different programs, violence, child safety, et cetera, et cetera. Return to Sport toolkit. Lots of other videos and resources that are there that you can use to help you move through your club. And then the really big part of what Play by the Rules do is helping clubs define the behaviors they want and how to ensure that you get those behaviors that you want from the coaches, from the officials, from the parents, from the players. So that 360 view of it. So tips for parents, say if we click on that one, there's videos. Oh, a good friend from ABC, Paul Kennedy, different resources, different areas, different focuses, different training. So lots and lots of resources that can take us into these areas that we don't normally consider until we're in the club, and we have to actually really be conscious of the behavior of everyone that's involved in our club. What do we do when we get the behavior we don't want? And that's the concept of complaint handling, making a complaint, dealing with the complaint, mediating a complaint, etc. So lots of great resources on the Play by the Rules website. So really, really pleased. Really, really important that we share that, I think, because it's one of the great resources in Australian community sport. Coming up for us tomorrow is the chat between Craig Arbenstead and myself. So two ex-CEOs of local football leagues talking about player payments. And so we're going to be discussing, no judgment, discussing the pros and cons of player payments. As I said, hopefully on Thursday we'll start our kind of delving into complaints handling. And we're really going to come at it from the angle of, well, what are the most common complaints and how do we stop them escalating and into turning them from complaints to real issues that have the capacity to be diversive within the club. Friday will be eSport Friday, and then very, very, very pleased to announce that starting next Wednesday for a 5-week series where we're partnering with Vic Health to do a live stream a week where we case study a club who is doing sport differently. So we're going to pick up the 6 principles in the Vic Health doing sport differently framework, and we're going to look at how clubs have applied those principles each week over a period of 5 or 6 weeks, and use case studies to see how clubs are recruiting participants to their club in new, different, and exciting ways. And so, having done a lot of the interviewing in preparation for this series, these clubs were amazing. The people were inspiring, and I can't wait to start sharing those comments, those case studies with you starting next Wednesday. So next Wednesday, we're going to start to theme doing sport differently Wednesday. It's not as catchy as eSport Friday, but it's great, a great series that I'm really looking forward to bringing to you. So the other thing is that starting next week, we have a 3-part series on, starting next Thursday, I think it is, on the 6th of July, we have a 3-part series building off the work we're doing with Vic Sport, and that's recruiting participants, recruiting volunteers back to your club. So we're going to look at that through a different lens and say, well, how can we recruit people to our club in a way, because we know that there are actually upwards of 20+% of the population that want to be in clubs that aren't. Right? They want to be participating in sport or active organisation, but aren't. So we're going to tackle that problem head on. And again, we're going to use the Vic Health framework and look at case study after case study of how clubs have used that framework to increase their participation and take people on a journey from sitting on the couch to participating, involving, learning, and then for some of them, joining the real competitive side of our sport, but for others, just being really valuable members of our club and participating in a social basis. So it's a action-packed couple of months coming up, actually, as we start to load the agendas with the guests. So to those that were watching live today, thank you. Good morning to you, and until tomorrow, where I am really pleased to be joined by Craig Armstead talking about local football, talking about player payments within community sport. So until then, I'm Steve Pallas. Thank you very much for being part of our sports community.